Back again for the first time, but not really. You got the one and the only Matt is in the house. Say what's up to the folks.
What's up? I gotta get my mic hooked up, but I guess you can hear me for the moment.
Again, we'll bring it back to me, Jermaine, as Matt's unprepared as we do this week after week and deal with the same type of unprofessionalism. And I feel like a broken record. You've heard me go through this again. Just kidding. Matt's
Poor Jermaine.
Matt's my boy. You know, we're all good. We were having an interesting chat between us, and we felt like we would bring it to you, and we hope you enjoy. And you know what? I don't care if you enjoy it or not. You're going to listen. Deal with it. Love you, France. Love you, Canada.
Everybody just hit skip.
Hey, USA, you know you're in my heart, but you know, it's pretty cool that Canada loves us. I don't know if they love us. They love us.
Oh, they love us.
But we were talking about movies, TV shows, things of that nature that don't age well, that we remember and we used to think of fondly. But as we check them out now, they don't really sit well. And I brought up TV shows that I liked as a kid, like Knight Rider, The A-Team, The Dukes of Hazzard. When I watch or try to check them out, I'm just like, ugh, this is garbage. What was wrong with me? Did you have any that
80 shows or just?
It'd be anything. It'd be movies, music, something that you were fond of, and just you look back. You had fond memories, and you turn it on. You're just like, ugh. If I could go back in time, I'd smack that kid for liking this show.
Man, it's really hard, but there's some shows that started off really well and then didn't go anywhere, or they got bad, but they still got ratings even though they were bad and people didn't realize they were bad.
What?
Like one is, and I talk about him a lot because I think if I would rank stand-up comedians of all time, I'd put Bill Cosby number one, but The Cosby Show started off awesome.
I did.
And it's still, say what?
It did.
Yeah, and still the first 2-3 seasons of that are solid.
Oh, dude. Anything that is heavy with Theo and Denise is money.
I mean, the whole thing with Theo and that whole routine of him saying, it's just, you should be okay with it because I'm your son.
That's great.
And that's all-time classic, where the whole crowd, the studio audience is like, yeah, because every sitcom before that thought that, and then Cosby goes, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
My favorite, I think, and I heard like a comedian or someone on a TV show recently make a reference to it, and I was like, yeah, because that's like the best Cosby Show episode ever to me, is the one where he buys the shirt, the $95 shirt.
Yeah, Gordon Gartrell.
Yes, sir. And when he shows it to his dad, when they bring the shirt home, and he's like, that's a nice shirt. And he's like, how much did it cost? And he's like, look at the stitching. How much did it cost? He goes, yeah, see, Dad, this is a designer shirt. That's nice. How much did it cost? And he's like, $95. And when Bill Cosby's like looking in the box, throwing out stuff, and they're like, what are you doing? He's like, I wanted to see if there's a pair of pants and some shoes that come with it.
It's just an all-time classic episode, and there's a few of them.
Denise makes the shirt, and it's hideous. No,
that is a made-up brand, isn't it?
Yeah, Gordon Gartrell.
Because somebody was a new girl. He's
that's the show. This is Winston. He's like, it's a Gordon Gartrell. I was like, that's Cosby Show.
That was hilarious.
Girl, this is a Gordon Gartrell. Nah, that's like one of my all-time favorite episodes of anything. My cousin and I talk about it all the time.
But that show is so classic, and for whatever reason, after a few seasons, they totally ran out of ideas.
Well, it went from interesting. There was always a little bit of a message there, but then it got so preachy that you could not take it anymore. Like the whole episode became just one big. Remember what was those things that maybe it was NBC that they would always do those public service announcements and like
now
it became like a whole 30 minutes of that.
Yeah, And who was it? Was a cousin that showed up at the end?
Yeah, that's awful.
She was the version of the cousin on the Brady Bunch,
Exactly.
or the kid on Family Ties. That last ditch character that comes in and destroys what's left of the show.
Oh, it was awful.
But it just got so bad, and you look back on it, and I would see reruns like that Cosby Show, awesome, and then it's like season 6, you're like, damn it, or whatever. How many seasons it go on? But season 8, and you're like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Because it was always, and I can't remember if it was The Simpsons. I want to say it was The Simpsons, but it might have been Family Guy or one of those animated shows did a parody of one of the later episodes, and Rudy's like, "Who is this?" "Oh, this is your grandfather." "But which grandfather is he? I've already got 8 grandfathers." "This is the grandfather from the other side of Africa that I found in he would pull out a grandparent. It seemed like every other episode.
Oh my god, it was terrible.
And it was accurate. It was like, wait, who is this guy now?
Yeah.
It was just, I don't know. He ran out. I don't even know if it was him, because he was the best thing about it. But I don't know if the writers all quit. I don't know what happened. But it did not end well.
No.
And speaking of, it wasn't really an 80s show. I mean, I guess
I don't think it has
that's just what I had in my head. Yeah, shows we watched when we were that were on when we were young.
I think that's the way we started off the conversation.
Yeah.
When we were talking about stuff, because that's something I do a lot. Is I'll see things I used to thought I had built up in my mind was great, and they'll be on when I can't sleep. I'm like, yeah, man, I want to see an episode of. Oh, why the hell did I like this?
When I remember the A-Team, and I won't steal your thunder because I think you might mention that one. But that and and Magnum PI were two shows where I was like, oh, these are both really good. And I think Magnum in some ways hasn't aged well because it's of its time, but it's aged better than the A-Team.
Nothing. The A-Team is, I think, one of the worst when you think about how popular it was, and then you see it and you're just like, this is straight garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, do we really have to drug VA every time?
Every episode.
I'm not getting in that thing. Yeah, have a glass of milk.
Oh, okay.
It's awful, man. Yeah, that one stands out. Like I said, Dukes of Hazzard, Knight Rider is another one. I mean, Knight
Rider's a good one. Because when you're a kid, you think that show's good.
Talking car. It's a cool car at the time.
That's all you need as a kid. The car friggin' talks.
But then you see episodes and they're like, remember it was Kit versus Cat or Car or whatever his name was. And then there's Michael Knight's twin brother that had a mustache and a goatee. That's how he was different. That's how you knew he was the evil twin.
Goatee's always equal.
And he didn't have the full goatee. He had the flavor saver, soul fat. It's just ridiculous.
Man, what else? What do you have?
I know. I was trying to think of some movies that didn't age well, and that I remember being great, and then I watch and ugh. But I can't think of any of those right now. Did you have anything or
movie wise?
Yeah, just anything that you can think of that you come across. I'll tell you a show that excuse me, I loved as a kid, and I can still get sucked into if there's a marathon. It reminds me of Vice.
Yeah.
There was a marathon on a couple of years ago, and I was late for work. I was like, I can't stop.
Really?
Because I was like, man, this episode's good. Oh, I was going to lead to the next episode. Crap. And I didn't have DVR at the time. Which, is a show that I think has held up pretty well. And I still don't understand how you could F up that movie, but they found a way.
Miami Vice was kind of ahead of its time in some ways.
Yeah.
As a TV show.
Yeah.
It had some solid stuff about it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just, for a TV show on, a network TV show, it was really well done. Had cool music, cool plot lines. I mean, it is, of course it's unbelievable because it's a TV show, but it's still enough to keep your interest where you're like, come on. You know, people would die. You know, they weren't scared to kill off characters. Which, you know, and think about A-Team, man, they wouldn't even kill bad guys. It just would be a lot of gunfire and a lot of missiles, but no one would ever get shot. I mean, not even like even Star Trek would have the what was it, the Go Team or whatever.
Oh yeah, the away team.
Yeah, that's it.
They always die.
Yeah, they wouldn't even have. You wouldn't even see anyone barely even get shot on the A-Team, and they had like semi-automatic weapon.
Did you ever watch Short Circuit when you were a kid?
Which one?
Ali Sheedy.
The movie?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Gutenberg.
Johnny Five, Alive.
I think I probably liked that as a kid. It's the worst piece of crap.
I was right there with you. You know, my family loved it, and you know, if I was to watch it now, I'd be like, ugh.
I think, what is it? Was it Wall-E? Or it's one of those movies they say that ripped off Short Circuit.
Well, he looks like whatever his face is looks exactly like it.
Yeah.
I never saw Wall-E though.
It's pretty good.
Is it?
Yeah. It's a little preachy itself. For an animated film, it's kind of overly preachy, like we're destroying ourselves. But like it's a real environmental message.
Oh, shoot me.
But it's still actually pretty good. It'll go down as a lot better than Short Circuit.
That was a good one. Shoot, I'm trying to think of some stuff. You like trumping me, man.
I do.
I'll tell you a show, and I hated the show when it came out. But like my mom, my dad, my sister loved it, and I still think of how much of a piece of garbage it was. And it was a mild hit at the time. Did you ever see Scarecrow and Mrs. King?
Yeah, I remember that. Ugh. Like I don't really. All I remember mostly is like the openings. Like maybe it's a theme or the credits.
Dude, you did miss out.
But I remember the show, but I just don't remember if it was good. I guess you're saying it wasn't.
I hated it, man. It's a shitty detective show, kind of like Cagney and Lacey, which is another show my family liked. And
Cagney and Lacey was a huge cult following because it was one of those first shows that got canceled, like Family Guy did. People forget Family Guy got canceled,
right? And off the strength
of brought it back. And
comedy.
That's what happened with Cagney and Lacey. It got canceled, and people went ape. You better bring that show back.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. Yeah, dude. See, it was so bad that I just remembered it was a detective show, but it starred Kate Jackson and Bruce Boxleitner. A divorced housewife and a top-level agency operative who began a strange association. And that was every episode. Because it'd be like, she's washing dishes, and he'd show up in the window and scare her, and then they go on some stupid mission. Dude, it sucked. But it was pretty popular.
It was popular.
I didn't realize it was only 4 seasons. Like, that felt like forever.
I guess when you're younger, that feels like a lot longer.
A show that was huge and it was shitty, and only reason why I think people watched it was because of the chicks. Charlie's Angels. Oh,
Charlie's Angels was not very good.
No.
That's the only reason. That's probably the only reason anybody watched those movies.
But the show was, it was a huge hit, but it was awful. A show that I used to like, but I need to see it to see if it probably doesn't hold up and it sucks, but my sister and I loved it. Remember the Fall Guy?
Yeah.
I'd like to see an episode of that to see if I still dig it. You got any?
I'm trying to find this movie that
I heard someone, I can't remember who it was, they were talking about this. I think it's on a radio station, and they actually had something similar to this where they said they were thinking about things from their childhood as well. And the one guy said he remembered loving crap. I had it. What's the one with the superhero? They couldn't do anything right.
Greatest American Hero.
That's the one. He was like, oh man, I remember liking that, and I bought the DVD. And he said,
"Don't tell me they're bad, because I remember it being awesome."
He said he came away with realizing the only thing he liked about the show is the theme song.
Yeah, I guess it's no more for the song than anything else. When I was a kid, I thought it was great.
Dude.
Even me and my mom loved that show.
Everybody loved that show. Because, he's a superhero, but he couldn't get things right.
Yeah, he couldn't fly. He couldn't do anything.
That all made it great. But he's like, man, I got it. And I was so excited. And then I started watching it and realized, no.
Did you ever see a sci-fi movie. It actually came out in '79, according to this, but it's called The Black Hole.
You're racist. I don't watch a racist movie.
Oh, jeez. Not the black asshole.
Is that true? You went to that really quick. You had that bullet in the chamber, didn't you? No, what the hell is that?
It's one of those movies that I kind of only barely remember from childhood, but I remember certain things about it. And I think if I watched it today, I'd be like, "This is horrible," because I remember the effects were just horrible. They were just horrible.
The black hole. The hell, man? Yeah, you got me on that one.
I don't know when I must have seen it. I'm sure at 4 years old I wasn't watching it.
Man, you don't.
I saw it. They must have replayed it on TV or something.
You know, like how it's hilarious in the movie Ted when they're like all in love with Flash, that movie, and
that part actually kind of annoyed me, but
well, it's funny because you're just like, come on. I remember as a kid going to that movie with my parents and my sister, and how excited we were, and then how awful that movie was.
Yeah.
So when they're talking, I'm like, no freaking way anyone likes this movie.
Oh, it was probably Seth MacFarlane. He's probably like one dude.
Well, because of all the music and
yeah, and he likes weird stuff.
Anything he can sing along to is right up his alley.
What's that show about? Something sharks with the businessmen on it right now. The Shark Tank.
Okay.
Where people come and try to have ideas for a product or a business. And Mark Cuban's one of the sharks.
Okay.
And it's one of those things that's probably like a guilty pleasure because I always end up kind of getting into it. And they usually are like, this idea sucks, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes they invest money with them. And this one dude had some product, and then Seth MacFarlane just walks out in the middle of his presentation. And it was so, because they have to pretend surprised that Seth MacFarlane shows up. Seth MacFarlane. Yeah. He's like, oh, this is my friend. I just wanted to help him out. Wow, Seth MacFarlane, we love you. And then he does like Stewie's voice, and they're like, we love Stewie. I'm like, this is so bad. Like, how would he even agree to this?
That's interesting.
And his friend's idea didn't get chosen. He's like, oh,
well. There's a show, and it's a show that people love to make fun of that I never watched. My sister loved it. I hated it. And I remember, this was a couple years ago, I was at the hospital, and you're in the waiting room and you're subject to whatever someone else there is watching, and an episode of the show was on, and I couldn't stop laughing the whole time. And I was like, how did this show even get greenlit? Who said okay? And why was it popular? And it's freaking Walker, Texas Ranger. It was the worst piece of crap I ever saw in my life. It may have been one of the worst shows I ever saw, and I feel okay saying that.
There's an awesome clip from Walker, Texas Ranger. I mean, there's a lot of them, actually, because they're so bad, where it's Haley Joel Osment, or whatever, and he's talking to Walker, and they're just shooting this crap, talking, and then he goes, I have AIDS, but it's just so random, it's like, it's hilarious, and I know it doesn't sound like it should be hilarious, but this little kid, I'll even try to pull it up if I can.
Dude, it is one of the worst pieces of crap. I couldn't believe how awful that show was. I was like, man, this is painful. But the show was on forever, man.
People love Chuck Norris.
Yeah, they do, apparently.
Here, let me see if I can pull it up here for a second.
Well, you how you say it in Cherokee. Oh, my French, but Walker told me I had AIDS.
So it's like, and that was because they played on Conan why there was laughter. I don't know if that came through at all. It's like they're just talking, they're just making a little joke. The old man's making a little joke with him, and he goes, Walker told me I have AIDS. It's like, thanks, Walker.
Oh my god.
Is that really in your job description?
Oh,
and my dad loves Walker, Texas Ranger.
Really?
But do you know why? It's because he took karate.
I told you, man, my sister, oh my god, she would watch it religiously. It was awful. And seeing it a couple of years ago, I was like, I don't understand how anyone liked this show. I'm trying to think of some other. The Incredible Hulk. As a kid, didn't get enough. Saw one recently, it was like, ugh.
That show should have been better because the opening was awesome.
Yeah.
That's like one of the best openings of any show ever. Like that sad music.
Yeah.
I mean, that music is like depressing as hell.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my god, it just encapsulates what, I can't talk.
I got you.
It just shows what he's got to deal with, this inner turmoil. And you're like, and then it would be like just a guy with green paint on it.
Well, it's 40 minutes of him taking crap. And then he turns into the Hulk, roughs some people up, and then he's gone. And you're just like, was I so desperate to see the Hulk?
Yeah.
It was just, it's one that was painful. But, again, we didn't have as many options as we do now. So you're subject to what you had. And as we're talking, I found another one that I love as a kid. And I saw it recently and was like, what the fuck was I thinking? Alf.
Really? Don't tell me that. That's my brother's favorite show when he was a kid.
Alf couldn't get enough. Saw it recently, was like, I can't do this.
But he liked to eat cats.
Oh my god, it's just not funny. You're just like, was I just happy to see a talking puppet?
Maybe so.
Yeah.
And you're probably, our parents were probably like, whoever wrote this must have been on drugs.
I will say this though, my parents loved it.
Yeah.
My parents were crazy about it. They were just as crazy about it as I was.
And did you ever see that Ben Stiller movie where he plays the writer of Alf, the main guy that wrote for it? It's like Permanent Midnight or something. I can't remember.
Oh, that sounds familiar. I have to. Oh, Nancy.
He's really good in it. Like,
I think I saw that one. Is that when he's like doing drugs?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did see that.
Because
he's doing heroin all the time.
Yeah, and it was based on a real dude.
Yeah. I did see that.
And they don't call it Alf in the movie, but the real dude, he was a writer for Alf, and they call it something else in the film. He was doing heroin while he was writing that show.
See, and that's the thing that I remember from that movie, is that he was always doing heroin.
Like one time, and this scene supposedly actually happened.
They call him Mr. Chopper.
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, there's a scene where he buys heroin with his kid in a baby seat in the car with him.
They go to that bad neighborhood.
Yeah, that apparently really happened.
Oh, dude, that's Mr. Choppers.
I mean, it's based on a guy's autobiography that wrote for Alf. I don't know if they just didn't want to piss off the Alf people and didn't use the name.
I think they didn't get the
rights or something.
Because it said he wrote for 30-something, Moonlighting, and Alf.
Moonlighting was a show that people loved.
I didn't get that one.
I didn't get it either, but I mean, Sybil Shepherd was attractive.
Yeah.
But Bruce Willis was funny.
Yeah.
I never really watched. I never just could for whatever reason. And that was one of those where there was all this sexual tension between the two of them. And as soon as they had sex on the show, it was over, and the ratings totally died, and it got canceled shortly thereafter. It's like, that's why you can't do that.
It's funny, to hear, because Bruce Willis won't talk about it, but it's always.
I don't think he and Sybil got along too well.
No. She talks about it a lot now. It's interesting because she mentioned how when they first because they signed her first, supposed to be the star, and he became the breakout star, which happened to her a lot in her career, and she's got rage issues anyway. But the way she describes the story, they got along great at the beginning. They had the sexual tension going on, without the show, even when they were. Because I think that they, like I said, they chose her first, and she was doing read through with some of the other actors, and the two of them had this great chemistry, and they chose him, and he was unknown at the time.
Yeah.
And she said they even talked about having sex, but they were like, no, this, if things don't work out, it will ruin the show, blah blah blah. And of course, they go through that on the show, and it's just funny how the way they didn't get along on the show, the way they didn't get along in real life, and she's still pretty bitter about it, which of course, and he didn't give a shit.
Yeah, he became one of the biggest stars in the world.
Remember 30 something was such a runaway hit, but at the time we were like teenagers, so we were like, we didn't get that shit.
Yeah.
At least that's the way I felt. Like it seems so depressing. It's like married people who don't want to be married.
Yeah, that sucks.
Well, I mean, it was such a huge hit though. Well, a show that does hold up for me, it's still funny, even in syndication, is Night Court.
That is or isn't?
Is still funny.
Yeah, I can see that. I haven't seen it in forever.
Of course, Cheers is still funny.
And you know that Night Court is basically a spinoff of Cheers.
Is it?
Because Harry was, well, it's kind of, I'm sure it's not officially, but what's his name? Harry?
I can't.
What's the guy's name? But he was on Cheers originally, and I think that's why he got Night Court for all his appearances on Cheers. He didn't play a judge, but he played like a magician.
Okay.
And kind of like a con artist.
Gotcha.
But
Harry T. Stone.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Who's the actor?
The name?
Yeah, Harry Anderson.
Yeah.
I always thought he was good.
No, like I said, it's one to me that was funny then and still funny.
Because he was hilarious on Cheers, and yeah, it's one of those characters you don't see a lot, but is always on one of the better episodes. Like,
it's just how he got that job. Like my sister, I remember watching it because, like, I didn't see it in the beginning. It just kind of stumbled across and liked it. And my sister was like, I guess she saw the episode of how he got hit. He became the judge at that particular place. She's like, "Do you know how he got the job?" Which makes me like the show even more. She's like, "He's the only one that like answered the phone when they were calling looking for a judge. He's like at the bottom of the list, and he's the only one who answered." So they gave him the job. Which
they helped make Mel Torme famous again. The Velvet Falls. Did you ever watch MASH, the early episodes?
No, I was never into it.
Because when I was young, for whatever reason, I was like, later episodes are best. And now looking back on it older, I'm like, later episodes are kind of weak. And it's those early ones that are just hilarious and still stand up. Because MASH is still, to me, an all-time great show, but at other times, it hasn't aged well either.
Mm-hmm.
It got real preachy at the end, of course, but there was early episodes when the original Colonel Blake was still on it and everything, and they had a guy that would come on called Colonel Flag, and he was just insane. And I don't know if he did like 3 or 4 episodes, but they're like the 3 or 4 of the most hilarious episodes in the history of MASH. And he would always try to leave a room with nobody seeing how he did it. It was like one of his things. And they were like, there was one time like the lights turned off, and like, where'd he go? And you realize he went out the window, and he makes this comment like, I'm like the wind, you can't ever see me, I'm the wind. And they're like, what happened? And then you hear him like he hurt himself. and Hawkeye looks out the window and goes, the wind broke its leg. But I can't even say the actor's name, but Colonel Flag was, to me, an all-time great character. and probably because he only did a few episodes, but they were all hilarious. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why Harry Anderson got noticed, and probably got Night Court off of Cheers.
No, but, you probably nailed it, man. That's interesting. But, and Cheers is a classic show, but, I don't know.
Go ahead.
I was just thinking of shows, and I remember Night Court, and I was like, man, that's a show that I think most people don't think about, but if you were to still watch it, you would find it hilarious.
Well, John not Lithgow, what's his name?
Larroquette.
John Larroquette won, 4 Emmys?
Yeah,
or 3?
He was the man.
But he won every single time he was nominated.
That's
and
insane.
To the point where he took himself off the ballot for the Emmy. Wow. And they're like, why'd you do that? He's like, I just didn't want to ever have to go there and not hear my name called.
That's interesting. I never heard him say that though.
Yeah.
Dude, I just saw this name of a show, Riptide, and I was like, why do that sounds familiar, but I can't place it.
Riptide, I remember Riptide vaguely. I don't think it probably is one of those that's aged well either.
It was only on for 2 years. It doesn't. I remember when it came out, but it didn't. Nothing about it sticks out to me. So I had to check that out. I'm trying to think of some others. You have anything else that?
Did you remember John Larroquette had a show called The John Larroquette Show?
Yeah. Was it the one where he worked at that bus station or train station?
Yeah, I think. It said the critics loved it, but it struggled to get ratings the whole time.
Yeah, he was like an recovering alcoholic, I think.
Yeah.
If memory serves me correctly.
He's good. I guess he's just aged out of a lot of stuff. I don't see him in much anymore.
Yeah, I'm sure he's probably tired. Yeah, that was the deal. Recovering alcoholic.
He's won a Tony. He's kind of the man.
You remember Dear John?
Vaguely, yeah. Who was in Dear John?
The dude from Taxi that I can't think of his name right now. Oh, it was like because it's one of those shows that had a theme song that kind of you like, dude, it's funny and it's depressing. Yeah,
Judd Hirsch.
Yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that show. Yeah, it was a depressing. Dear John. Isn't that how it went?
Yeah.
By the time you read these words, I'll be gone. Life goes on.
You're so singing it wrong. You were singing it.
How did I remember? I haven't thought of that in like 25 years, or I don't know.
And that's exactly why you would end up watching it, because you found yourself singing that song. You're like, it's so depressing.
And it just came back to me out of nowhere. Like, how is that stored somewhere in my brain?
Dude,
all this time?
That's hilarious. That makes it even greater.
Wow.
Oh man, the fact that you went right into it.
And when you first said it, I was like, that sounds vaguely familiar, but I had no idea.
Dude, it even says they put it side by side with the John Larroquette show.
Man.
Interesting, so funny. I just remember that theme song more than anything, and how depressing it was, and just like, ugh.
My favorite all-time theme song is from the Gary Shandling show.
I feel like I should know it.
I'll try to pull it up.
I remember the show. It was bizarre.
Yeah, tell me if it comes through. If not,
go ahead. He wrote for Sanford and Son.
Who's that?
Gary Shandling.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he wrote for Welcome Back Kotter too.
Watch the opening credit a little bit.
I gotta skip through all this stuff.
Gary called me up and asked if I would write his theme song. I'm almost halfway finished. How do you like it so far? How do you like the theme of Gary show? The theme of Gary show. The theme of Gary show. Hear the music as you hear, as you watch the credits. We're almost to the part of where I start to listen. Then we'll watch the Gary Shandling show.
Did you hear that?
Yeah. Like the minute it came on, I was like, "Oh, I remember that. I remember the show, and I remember it had a goofy."
Yeah. I only really remember one or two episodes being great. I think it was kind of showing what he was capable of.
Right.
Then when he got Larry Sanders, he kind of blew it out of the water.
Yeah, no doubt.
But there was a show, I need to look it up, because unfortunately it might be one of those where I have it so high in my head, and then I'll find it and be like, oh, wasn't that great? Just like what we're talking about. But there was one episode where he does a takeoff of the movie The Graduate, and I just thought it was so hilarious at the time. And at the very end, he and the girl are in the car together, and he like tries to kind of feel her up. And this is like as the credits are about to roll, or are rolling, and she goes, "No, Gary." And this is after this beautiful love story through the whole thing, and he just goes, "Well, then get out of the car." And I was really young when I saw that, and I knew it was A, like kind of dirty and wrong, and B, hilarious all at the same time.
Oh my god, that's so freaking funny.
The thing about Gary Shandling, I don't want to ruin.
No, say it.
But I discovered recently that, you know how the Comedy Store had those, the comedians were picketing and stuff.
Yeah.
Like
the big strike.
Yeah, on the big strike, and Gary Shandling is one of the few people that crossed the picket line.
But didn't David Letterman cross as well?
No, he didn't.
I think he did. I could be wrong, but I could have sworn I saw somewhere where he eventually did.
I don't know. I mean, he doesn't get credit for really doing it, if that's true. Because when I read about it, what's her face? Mitzi Shore was expecting Letterman to do it because
he was the MC.
well, and Letterman was one of her favorites, and she's like, Letterman loves me. He's not gonna just pick it. He'll cross and come in and do stuff. And she even had a conversation with him. Was like, well, I know you're not gonna cross. I mean, I know you will. And he's like, he's like, no, I'm gonna strike. And she was like devastated by it. And that guy Tom Dreesen or Dreesen.
Yeah, Dreesen.
He was kind of the main organizer of the whole thing, and somebody asked him what he thought of Gary Shandling, and he's like, he's a talented guy, but as a human being, I don't think much of him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
It's one of those things that you just can't do and ever recover from in certain people's heads.
No, you can't. Oh, I just found one that I remember liking as a kid and saw it recently. Was like, this is garbage. Mr. Belvedere.
Oh my gosh. I remember watching it.
Did you ever watch Benson?
You mean Jerry Seinfeld's first acting?
Was it on Benson?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Jerry Seinfeld was on Benson, and he got fired after like 4 or 5 episodes.
Oh, that's freaking hilarious.
Because he said he knew how he found out he got fired was he showed up for a table read and they didn't give him a script. And he's like, "Where's my script?" And they're like, "You're not in the show anymore."
Oh my goodness. Oh, I found one. Oh, dude. Do you remember Double Trouble?
Who was in that? What was that about?
Dude, it was about two 17-year-old twin girls. I don't think it lasted long. I think it made 2 seasons. But I just saw a picture. I was like, I remember those.
And then you had Punky Brewster.
Dude, I used to watch that.
That was my brother. Punky Brewster and Alf.
Oh, Alf.
One of his favorite shows.
I guarantee if I watched Punky Brewster now, I'd be like, what was I thinking?
They had the very special episode of don't let your children climb into open, abandoned refrigerators. Like, how big a problem? I guess that was a big problem at the time. Kids were just ending up in refrigerators.
I could see it. Oh, you remember Just the 10 of Us?
Yeah.
That was a spin-off of Growing Pains, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Empty Nest. Do you remember Empty Nest?
Yeah, I remember Empty Nest.
A lot of shows that were just like, you look back and you realize how mediocre TV was.
Again, they had us though, man.
But we still watched it.
Yeah.
And people are always like, the golden era of TV. TV is a million times better now than it's been in almost forever.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I think like the thing people forget is you had for most of the time when we were kids, 3 channels were your option. And then you got the 4th channel, and then, the cable boom kicked in, and everyone started jumping on that. But even at the early stages of cable, you only had like 12, 15 channels even then. And the big one everybody wanted was HBO.
Yeah.
And MTV. But you realize that a lot of those shows you watched because you had no other choice. I mean, you had choice to do other things, but if you were watching TV, it was very limited. You might get stuck with a show like Too Close for Comfort.
Yeah, which was when you look back on, you're like, oh, this wasn't that good.
But as a kid, like, this is great.
Yeah. The TV show, I think I always knew was horrible, and it's got to be one of the worst shows ever made. It's Small Wonder.
Oh, God.
Dude, it was on for 4 seasons.
I'm going to tell you one that, as a kid, my family, we loved, and it was on, and even my mom and my dad was like, what the hell? Why do we like this show? I was like, why indeed? Because I think it was because we had limited options. Remember freaking Bosom Buddies?
You mean Tom Hanks?
Exactly.
It did have another great opening theme. Oh, yeah, it's... wow.
Remember and recently they tried to remake it with a different name? I mean, it was basically Bosom Buddies, and it didn't work.
It's kind of unbelievable it worked the first time, but
yeah,
they were competing against 2 other shows instead of, like, now, okay, we have to be the best thing on with 10, 15 things on at the same time. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. Another
show, awful, but it had the theme song that would suck you in, was Give Me a Break.
Yeah.
That had your boy when he was a kid, that great Joey Lawrence.
Oh, God, he wasn't now.
That story with Joe Rogan and Dave Foley talking about him bumping his own music in his car at the studio.
Man.
That's priceless.
And was Was it Dave Foley that said somebody needs to tell that kid he's gay?
Oh man, that's the best. Like you believe it because you could see it. I mean, his head was so far up his own ass at that time.
Oh my god! Do you remember a show that didn't last too long? Wow, I didn't realize Thora Birch was in it.
Say it.
Thora Birch, Courtney Thorne-Smith,
What?
Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Oh, that was the show that we were talking about not too long ago.
Day by Day.
Yeah. I think you and I are the only two people that's actually seen it that I know.
I liked it.
Yeah.
And I liked, Courtney Thorne-Smith was really cute as
See,
heck.
she's the one I didn't remember. I remember Julia Louis-Dreyfus
Yeah.
and the kid.
I thought Julia Louis-Dreyfus was hilarious in it.
And the
I just
one
thought it was funny.
And the one kid that eventually went on to do the Brady Bunch movies, and he was the cartoon voice of Spider-Man in the 90s.
And seeing Day by Day, he was obsessed with the Brady Bunch, which is funny.
Yeah.
His character was obsessed, and they even had like a very Brady episode where it's they had a bunch of characters from the original thing.
I know this is one I think we've talked about before as well, but man, as a kid, couldn't get enough. But now, when that thing was on TV Land, I was like, this shit is stupid. Perfect Strangers.
Cousin. Yeah, I have a feeling I shouldn't rewatch that one.
Oh my god.
Bulky. What was it? Was it Alan? Cousin Alan?
Yeah. Oh, Cousin Larry, wasn't it?
Larry. That didn't quite sound right. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, dude.
Anything else? I'm about to have to wrap it up soon.
Yeah, I think we're reaching our time limit, so I think we'll call it another broadcast. Jermaine is out of the building.
Thank God.
Oh, ouch. Hurts my feelings.
Just kidding. See you later, bottom feeders. This is Matt. Thanks for listening.